So how do we start this?
We start this by... Actually, we don't start this by asking how we start this.
Yes,
we end
we
it
do.
by...
No, we do both.
Oh, we do?
So far.
Oh, okay. So how do we start this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, you
yeah.
were supposed to ask me, right?
No. But
No? Okay.
hi, this is Switching Reels. Hi, everybody.
This is Trenton.
And this is Connor.
Yes.
Yes.
So today we watched The Godfather.
Yes, we did.
Yes, and you hadn't seen this one yet.
I had not seen this one. I needed to, obviously. It's a classic. But I had not yet seen this one.
All right. So this is going to be our first episode where we actually have questions.
Oh yeah.
For
questions last
going
time.
through the movie. Well, yeah, but set questions. Yeah. So the first one, very initial reactions.
Oh yeah, very initial reactions.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a very good movie. It makes you think the whole time. You have a lot to track, which I enjoy deeply. And generally, my cat's outside.
Yep.
So, and generally, it was just really, really, really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Like the growth of Mike.
By the way, as always, there are spoilers in this.
Oh yes, but very much. I thankfully that wasn't very much, but yeah, there are spoilers. Please, don't expect not spoilers from this.
All right, so continuing on to
what was your
slight spoilers?
Reactions?
I mean, this is in my top
for the
5.
8th time.
This is my top 5 movie. Top
really
5
good.
movie for me. Yeah.
No, it was really, really good.
But in regards to growth, I would call it a descent.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a descent.
One man's potatoes, another man's madness.
I've never heard that before, but I'm using it.
But good.
Yeah.
I agree.
But yeah, initial reactions. First time I saw this, I was absolutely blown away.
Yeah. It's really good.
Like we were talking before we watched it about hype and sort of the way that can affect the way you watch a movie. But this one, it didn't matter.
This one's just good.
Yeah.
It's just, it very much meets, to me, and I think this is the second question, but very much meets second spot on IMDb, if not higher, I feel like. But I see why Shawshank was higher than this one, because it is more, Shawshank can be mainstream, it's more mainstream than Godfather
I would say it's more palatable.
More palatable. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That... You shouldn't allow any director to have 3 hours of time because that gives them the amount of time that they need to build up a character and then kill them. And you weren't entirely expecting it, which is nice.
Apollona, your reaction when she dies was just
Apollona dies. I liked her.
And what's wild is she only has 10 minutes of screen time, maybe.
And an equal number of lines.
Yeah. She is not a very well fleshed out character.
No, she is not. She was very attractive, so I understand why he married her. If
well,
that's what he was going for.
I would say what is really masterful about her sort of trajectory and death is that they do really... despite how little she's in the movie, she does make a really big impact on that.
And on him.
And on him. Yeah.
That impacts him for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And his descent into darkness.
Yeah. And you can definitely see, there was the initial, the very first thing I would say is when he goes to see his father and, does the standing outside thing, which... I mean, very reasonable.
Very reasonable. I don't think your dad to die.
I don't. And I don't think anybody would be watching that and be like, "Oh yeah, that's the bad dude.
That's a bad guy right there."
But then there's the he's sort of pushed into the scene where he has to assassinate the.
It was literally his idea.
I don't
know if it was he was put not even societally. It doesn't.
Yes,
feel like he was
but
pushed.
It was. I feel like it was undeniably necessary.
It was absolutely he was the only smart enough one, and the one with the right skills to do it in that time set.
Yeah, well, and he's the only one that wouldn't have been a huge suspect if he went there. Like everybody else, there would have been tons of security.
Tons.
They just
Exactly.
They even said earlier in the movie that the drug kingpin, I'm forgetting his name, the Turk. Anyway, they said that he knows that Michael's a civilian.
Exactly.
Right? And so, like, he's the only one that can do that. And so you go, okay, one really bad thing, he can definitely bounce back from that. I feel like the moment Apollona dies, like, you can see the change in his
demeanor.
Yeah, I was looking for something, I don't know, maybe a little bit personality, like more than just demeanor.
Exactly.
But you can see his, like, sort of world and the way that he views himself in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just kind of fall to pieces there.
Exactly. And at least change. Or solidify. And maybe that was the shift that, like, if it's nature over nurture, his nature just kicked in right there.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's that was quite a rabbit trail there. But yeah, I think she made a very big impact on him and the movie, especially given her tiny amount of screen time.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Later on, we'll watch Silence of the Lambs, and there will be a character that you will not think only has 15 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
Because he just kind of presides over the entire thing.
But
he's only got like 15 minutes of screen time. It's wonderful. I think Anthony Hopkins has the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in that.
Nice.
And had the record for least amount of screen time to earn that
award,
that Oscar. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. As far as ratings,
yes.
For me, this is a 10 out of 10 on both scales.
Nice.
I enjoy it at a 10, and I think it is a 10 movie.
Yeah.
Like, just objectively.
I think I would enjoy it out of 10, and then there were just like little, very small hiccups in how it was filmed for me that I was like, it broke me slightly. Like, there's some panning shots when they're going to Nevada, and some of the voiceover feels like it.
Voiceover?
Like, you can tell that it was voiceover.
Oh, yeah, some of the ADR stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know what ADR stands for.
Additional dialogue recording.
Thank you, yes. Some of that is very obviously there.
Yeah. I noticed it for the first time watching it this time.
Okay,
yeah, I've never noticed that before.
And so that broke me a little out of the immersion. So, but I absolutely enjoyed it. So I'd probably say a solid 9.5 on enjoyment, and also 9 or 9.5 on technical and goodness. So
just a small little fact about this: The Godfather was considered the killer of the drive-in cinema.
Because it's too long.
No.
Oh, really?
No, it's because
it's so dark?
Because it's visually so dark.
Yes.
That there are just a lot of shots where it would just be a black screen because you're outside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And because I don't know when they did drive-in cinemas, like daytime wise. Like, I imagine at night you could.
I don't know that they did a lot in
the day,
but there were a lot that were like dusk and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And the dusk ones would have bopped you. Yeah. Like, you'd have to see it after the sun goes completely down.
Yeah, like, so it was
that's funny.
Sort of what is considered the movie that shifted all cinema inside.
Yeah.
Because there's still a few drive-ins around, but
they're
rare.
Exactly.
And people don't really go to the drive-in to go to the movies. They go to the drive-in to go to the drive-in.
Yeah. Exactly. It's its own experience now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. What's our next question here? You already answered this, but I do think it deserves its place on the list.
Yeah.
I think at number 2, if not if not higher,
number 1. Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
So I definitely think that it does.
But it was brutal.
Yeah.
In a lot of different ways. Like, you're totally right. Like, Shawshank has its brutal moments and it's brutal in certain ways.
It doesn't feel like a brutal movie. Shawshank doesn't.
Exactly. Not really.
Yeah.
Like, you can say you feel afterwards like, oh wow, that was my soul is sad. But this one, your soul is sad and also slightly mortified.
Some of the killing scenes that I watched this a little later, so I was kind of desensitized.
But
you don't watch Once Upon a Time in America, and then go to this one and go, yeah, this was worse. Like,
nice. I haven't seen that.
Like, Once Upon a Time in America messed me up when I watched it at 15 years old. But yeah, so I forgot where I was going with it. Oh yeah.
Some of the killing scenes are just absolutely crazy. I really liked the hired thug guy.
Oh, Luca Brasi?
Yeah, Luca Brasi. He was cool.
Yeah.
It's very sad he died so fast. All of those killings were very effective.
Yes.
Like...
Yeah, and I think that's part of what made it feel so real, especially to audiences in the late 60s when this came out.
Yeah.
I think it was 69. It might have been 70, 71.
Nice.
Either way. Late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
Like, this was absolutely something that I don't think had ever been seen on the screen. And yeah, just those very effective killings that you're just like... Very
effective.
It feels real.
Yeah.
And then you have the scene where Santino beats up his brother-in-law outside.
Yeah.
And then completely just misses one of the punches, and you can clearly see the space in between.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's one where you're like, oh, they should have just done a pickup for that scene.
They really should have. It's really like...
Yeah.
That was that was great.
I'm sure on VHS it looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Entirely. I'm sure it's
But
fine.
this was shown in theaters.
This one was shown in theaters, and then afterwards, now that we have huge TVs, very much can see that.
Yeah.
And the subplot of how, like, who got Sonny killed was pretty...
This is the first time that I paid attention to it through the entire thing, because most of the time when I've watched it, you kind of just forget about the Sonny subplot after, you just have so much other stuff happening.
He needed to die for Mike to be able to actually fill that position. And so it was in my mind for after the entire thing.
Okay. So every time I've watched it, it's like Sonny dies, and I go, whoa, why did that happen? And then I stop wondering, like, halfway through all of those Michael scenes that happen in between him dying and...
The end. And him confronting the husband.
Yeah. But yeah, this brings us to our next question.
Yeah.
But standout scenes.
Yeah, standout scenes. Yeah,
and there was one scene that I wanted to talk to you about. Can you guess what scene it was?
Standout scenes. Wasn't the boobs likely?
No.
So I think standout scene, I don't know. So the one that is with me is just the husband-wife domestic abuse scene. Like that one's
uncomfortable.
That one's like, ooh, that's in my brain.
Yep. That's one where we needed one of those punches that just clearly misses.
Yes, and it doesn't happen. Does not break the tension at all.
Nope.
No.
The scene for me that I think is just absolutely incredible, and I would say the movie would be a masterpiece if this were the only scene.
Yeah.
And that's the christening of the baptism.
The baptism, absolutely.
Of his godson.
Yeah.
Like watching the side-by-side renouncing of Satan and all of his works.
After he had just commissioned all of his men to kill everyone else.
Yes. And what's wild to me is I had always seen like the juxtaposition and just gone like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
What I didn't recognize was that is also the point at which he fully transforms into the Godfather that his father was.
Yes.
And that's just so wild to me that like you watch him literally becoming a Godfather at the same time as he is like all of these people are being murdered on his
after his father dies. Like,
right, yeah. It's soon after.
Yeah, very soon after. Like, because they have the discussion about being a godfather, and then the father dies. So
right, yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. So I would say that is the standout scene for me. But there are so many scenes in this that are sort of cultural touchstones as well. And I feel like we'd be remiss in not talking about that.
Perfect.
Where like the scene at the beginning 60s. With the wedding, where he's answering all of the requests from everybody. That's all over the place. Like the amount of times that Zootopia ripped it off at one point. They go see the mole.
Oh, you're right. That's really... Oh, you're totally right. Yep.
Yeah, so that's all over the place. One of my favorite scenes in Community is... it's after the episode scenes. And there are two characters that are getting ready to go have a squirt gun fight. Nice. And they're making fun of another character who walks in with like this tiny little squirt gun pistol. And he sprays them both in the eyes and then drops the gun. And what he sprays them in the eyes with has pepper in it. So they're writhing on the ground. Yeah. And he's just reenacting the scene of Michael killing the two guys in the diner.
That's fantastic. I love that.
So like there's a lot here. But yeah, I mean, oh my, yeah, this is a crazy referenced film.
Yes,
like I would say more so than Shawshank.
Oh,
undoubtedly,
easily. Yeah. Like I maybe saw one or two scenes that I'd seen from Shawshank before, but nothing compared to like all the references I knew were from Godfather already, like beforehand, before seeing it. So yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, there's only going to be really one scene in part 2 that is referenced a lot, but it's still an absolutely phenomenal film.
That's fantastic. I think it's like 5 or something.
No, it's 3.
Oh, it's 3?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So we get to watch... Oh, that's kind of cool. Back to back.
Yeah. Sorry. It's 4.
I thought it was 4. It's 4. I thought Dark Knight was 3.
It was 3 for a long time. And then The Dark Knight passed it up very recently, like in the past 2 years.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And you don't see shifts like that very often.
Yeah.
But yeah, so are there any other scenes that you like feel like you really need to dig into?
I am trying to think. I love the wedding. That was a cool setup, and it's crazy that this entire thing was just over starting narcotics business.
Yep.
That's just incredible.
Yeah. Like
absolutely insane.
And what I think is really interesting is Don Corleone, the original Godfather, right? He takes what I would say is the most moral stance of any of them.
Actually though.
Like it does feel,
and it also makes sense.
Yeah, it does sort of feel like you're watching it from the perspective of like, this is a bad dude, but he's the best bad dude.
Exactly. Like if there was a bad dude that you would want to trust, it would be him.
Yeah.
If you had to.
Yeah. But yeah, so like that whole thing. Another thing that I just wanted to touch real quick about the wedding scene. The beginning of one of the best Batman comics of all time is basically like taking the wedding scene and putting its small spin on it. It's very interesting because all the Batman villains are like Italian mob bosses.
Yes,
and stuff.
Exactly.
Like all the organized crime villains.
Yes.
So yeah, like it starts with a wedding and, Bruce Wayne pays him a visit, and yeah, it's really, really cool.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, so I think we're ready to move on to themes.
I think so too.
Which, oh boy, this movie.
It's got a couple of them.
Yeah. I would say the first and probably most obvious being the influence of family on your life.
Like Mike tries to get away from it. Like the beginning of his life. He goes to war. He goes to college, goes to war, is a war hero, which we don't know why he's a war hero.
Yeah.
And then comes back and is like, I'll go to my sister's wedding.
Yeah.
And that's like
that's all it takes.
He has. Yeah, exactly. And then that ropes him back in.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that's the thing that ropes him in. It is his father
getting shot.
Yeah. But like even at that wedding scene at the beginning, he says, "That's my family. That's not me."
Mm-hmm.
And then we slowly see him become that.
And when he's talking with Kay, after he comes back and is defending his father,
right? Yeah,
like, it's a really nice juxtaposition.
Yes, but yeah, there's. Oh my gosh, I'm spacing on all the other themes. I would say themes of corruption as well.
Yeah, like there's a fair amount of that. Absolutely.
Like you look at the police officers on the take. You look at the
judges and senators and congressmen. That was the entire reason that they disliked Don.
Yeah. Well,
not the entire reason. But
they're all Dons.
Yeah, they're all Dons. Don
Corleone.
Corleone.
Yeah.
But bad.
Yes.
Better than that. Corleone. Perfect.
Yeah, so I think there's those themes of corruption and sort of how that corruption takes place.
Yeah.
As we watch Michael move from a pretty uncorrupted individual. Like, he associates with criminals, but that is because they are actually
his family. Literally his family.
His father and his brothers.
Exactly.
The other thing that I thought was interesting is you kind of watch the trajectory of his sister's marriage through the entire movie.
Yeah, the entire movie. It starts with that, and it ends with that.
Yeah.
Like,
and I did not catch that at all the other however many times I've seen this film.
No, that makes sense. It is a small thing, but it's a thread that keeps it the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, by the time this movie ends, the child that because that was a very, very nearly newborn infant. It was a few months old, probably. But, like, so that was...
If that.
What, a year and some time? Because he was back for a year.
Yeah, I mean, there was a decent amount of time, but...
Was that her second child?
No, that was her first.
I don't think that makes sense. If he was back for a year when he saw Kay.
Well, yeah, so he and Kay had a child. But...
he was like 3.
Yes. But he had some time to grow. His sister, despite getting married before him, did not have... Oh wait, no, she did have a child.
Did.
It was her second child because
it had to have been her second child because the first one the baby. Was before he even came back.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But yeah, no, it does. Watch them.
Yeah. So yeah, you do see sort of their marriage go from, and one of the things that I noticed even early on this time was like the tension between Sonny and what was her husband's name?
Jerk.
Yeah, Jerk.
Yeah.
Anyway, like you see the tension between them at the table when he's telling her to shut up.
Yeah. And that's true.
Like, yeah, even early on, you see like he starts becoming dissatisfied with the marriage or her or whatever, and like starts mistreating her.
Yeah.
And then like you see that sort of evolve into one of the most upsetting scenes that you like. I don't know. Like there are very few scenes that I have watched that have upset me in the same way that scene has.
No, absolutely.
Because I think one of the things that is most effective about that scene is that you feel like you're watching it and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I don't know.
There's a lot of scenes like that. They were like, hey, we have 3 hours. You don't need to cut anything short.
Well, in fairness, I would have a problem with them cutting most of the scenes in this movie short. Yeah,
absolutely. No, for sure. Like, the length was important.
Yeah.
Both for the realism and, like, for the connection that you have with it. Like, it draws you in and makes you feel corrupted as well, slightly.
Yeah.
Like, you don't agree with anything happening here, but...
There is another iconic shot which lines up with the themes really well. So it's a much shorter arc, but you watch as Michael starts to sort of cut Kay off from his life.
Yeah.
And the last shot in that movie is very iconic, with the guy closing the door
on her. His business.
Yeah.
After he lies to
her. Yeah. What I didn't realize is earlier in the film, when he is on the date with her and she sees the newspaper and he picks it up, he has a very similar framing, or I guess the film has a very similar framing when he gets into the phone booth. And you can see her watching through the glass that's like, it's got the bulletproof metal netting on it.
Exactly.
And I did not pick up on that.
Just from the very beginning, he's still very roped into, nope, this is family business.
Yeah.
Like, this cannot have anyone else inside of it.
Yeah. And that's just, it's very, very wild.
Yeah, absolutely. I had another family. And some of the distinction between like blood and also like ethnicity versus even being adopted. Like Tom served a very important role, but he's like, no matter what he like told himself, he still wasn't like on par with any of either the biological children, and sometimes even just like the Italian henchmen at points. Yeah,
you definitely do get sort of this feeling that even if he's consigliere, like he's still not Sicilian.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
What I found really interesting is also the way that we got to look up the guy's name, the drug kingpin.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Targets him, right? Like he intentionally takes him out of all of them and says, you need to talk Sonny into taking this deal. And some of that's his position.
Yeah, it is.
But I do think that some of it also is the fact that he was a bit of an outsider.
Yeah, he's the easiest one to approach, and the only one that would even like entertain that kind of meeting.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. Because the other ones, I think even though he was incredibly loyal, I think he was far more
American.
I guess. Yeah, almost American.
It feels like, yeah.
Where it was not so much a matter of you hurt someone close to me, therefore I kill you.
Yes,
no matter what.
Exactly. There was a lot. There was more like tempered reason in it.
Yeah. But yeah, he's probably my favorite character.
Yeah,
I really liked him.
No, I really liked Tom a bunch. Like, he was a really, really good character. I was expecting him to be a traitor the entire time, and I was really glad when he wasn't.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I never expected him to be a traitor in any of my watches, but some of that was because I think, as weird as it sounds, I sort of identify with him.
Nice.
As like,
you're a lawyer.
I like I like to think that I am a loyal person who also is willing to listen to reason.
Yes.
And I feel like he is sort of the cooler head in every scenario. Not even just when Santino is.
No, but even like with the like old daddy Dom.
Yeah.
Don.
Yeah. Because like you even look at the way that he approaches the drug issue.
Yeah.
And like, it is very cold and calculated.
Exactly.
Like, morality doesn't come into it at all.
No.
Which is what makes him wrong.
Exactly.
But also he is like looking 10 years down the road.
Absolutely.
And saying,
hey,
this is what's going to happen.
Yes.
Simply from a business perspective.
It's a good business venture.
Yeah.
Like
so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot more to say on themes.
I don't think I do either.
I feel like I'm missing a lot, though.
I feel like the entire thing itself is just a giant, like, very, very well told story.
Yeah.
Like, And
it struck me how Shakespearean it was this time around.
That makes sense. I haven't read enough Shakespeare to be able to say in either direction.
Shakespeare, of course, loved his, hey, these are the royal families and this kind of thing. And let's look. He would always focus on one family at a time, though. And I think that's what reminded me of it, is that alongside the fact that he was showing, the film showed the succession of a son to his father's position and then another son to that position as well.
Absolutely.
Which I feel is Shakespearean. I don't necessarily know that that's the case because I can't think of anything that does exactly that. But Shakespeare was a fan of Dad's dying at the beginning.
Yeah, that's
or
a good point.
Somewhere in the middle, depending on your play.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And also, I'm just now thinking about it, technically, from a success perspective, I wonder if his father would have taken that action of just destroying the rest of the families.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like bold. He would have.
Yeah.
It felt as though he actually, he had a desire to be hey, I like having all the judges. Pablo over there likes having all of the marijuana. Just kidding, it's not marijuana at the time, but heroin. And
well, marijuana was already there, but they weren't, it wasn't as big. So
yeah, exactly. And he seemed to like the system that was there. He liked having the checks and balances around everything.
Yeah.
So I don't think he would have made that same decision. And he was also very accurate in the fact that it was not him that broke the peace.
Yeah.
It was his son.
Yep. It was. So yeah. If that's
the next one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's see what else we got here.
Recommendations.
So I actually have one more thing before we go to recommendations. We've probably gone over some of these already, but are there any technical things that stood out to you as done supremely well?
I liked the car explosion.
The car
explosion? I don't know why I liked the car explosion specifically. Some of the things that just slightly made me like Sonny's death scene wouldn't have happened that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like there's something towing the line there between 40s mafia movie.
Yeah.
And how it would look in real life.
Yes.
And it the fact that 5 guys stand up at the same time and all gun him down.
That very mafia.
Yeah, and I would say classic mafia movie, right?
You would not have been able to get out of the car after being hit by 16 bullets already.
Yeah.
But there's no way that would have happened.
I feel like it almost added to how emotionally potent that scene was, though.
That's a good point.
Weirdly enough, this movie feels like it toes the line between being mainline Hollywood and very realistic.
Yes.
And it just does it in such a spectacularly difficult to describe way.
Completely agree.
And I think that's part of the reason that it is as well loved as it is because it's it feels real, but at the same time it feels very much like it's a movie.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, and it absolutely does. It has tropes of a movie, and it has the general feel and progression of one.
Yeah.
Which is really very nice. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to sit there for 3 hours and watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, recommendations then.
Yeah, let's do recommendations. If you enjoy a good think, for sure this is one of the movies, but you have to make sure you're okay with some relatively gruesome deaths.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you don't necessarily need to have a good think. I think it's better if you do.
Yes.
But you definitely need to be able to pay attention.
Oh, sorry, if you want to have a good think is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I still think that it's more, it has more to do with whether you're willing to pay attention. Because most of the things are pretty spelled out.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things the scene we were talking about before we started the podcast about the drawing the water from the well being the indicator and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, there are those things that you got to think through.
Yes.
But those are few and far between.
That
Most everything else is spelled out for you. You just got to pay attention.
Yeah, and they do time skip well enough that like it segments the story in pretty good way. So,
but I would say I would recommend this to any mature audience, with the caveat of if you are squeamish, then probably not.
Exactly. Like there's pieces of domestic violence. And if nudity isn't your thing in movies, then there's like a scene for that. So don't.
Yeah, there's probably 10 seconds of nudity in the entire thing.
Exactly. Some people it's just a turnoff though.
Yeah. No. I totally get that. It's just it's frustrating to me because I'm like, this means I'm gonna have to like not show this to my kids at 13.
You can have that conversation really early.
I still probably won't, but that's going to be the main scene.
Yeah, exactly. And otherwise, it's just really intense.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I don't feel depressed after it necessarily. I feel sad, but I'm like, something about Mike just feels like he was going to go that direction.
Really?
And that he like.
I didn't feel that way when I started the movie.
Yeah.
By the end, it feels inevitable. I think
he doesn't connect, except for his family. Like that was already going to make it hard for him.
Yeah,
he tries to. He very much tries to, and he goes and tries to separate himself.
Yeah, I guess you can kind of see that in like the hotel room dinner scene where he isn't talking to Kay and
exactly. I would even a little bit at the wedding kind of say that as well. Like he's putting it's a doth protest too much instance where in my opinion.
Okay. So is this just our Shakespeare episode then?
Yeah, it is.
All right.
It's going to be the title.
The Shakespeare.
God Shakespeare. Shake Godfather?
Let's not title it that. I feel like we should just title these by the movies.
Dang. Having a subtitle.
Otherwise, I would say Blood and Oranges.
Blood and Oranges. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so we have the main title, and then in the show notes and in the descriptions on YouTube, it'll say our custom titles.
All right. Well, how do we end this?